Is there anyone in your life that's unknowingly draining your energy? The easy but unkind thing to do would be to cut them out. But what if there was a compassionate way to stop absorbing their emotions? What if you could learn to compassionately set more boundaries? My name's Nilesh, and welcome to this channel where we're going to be helping you master your emotions through the power of compassion. And I'm going to be sharing tips and insights I share as a self-mastery coach with my clients, with the likes of film producers, music producers, entrepreneurs, authors, and also most of my clients are empaths, people who are sensitive to emotions. I am, and what I like to call nice performers, people who feel like they need to care in order to be loved, or people who feel like they need to accomplish in order to be loved. So this video is for you if you need help setting boundaries. I know it's something that personally, I wish I'd had this video years ago, and still to this day is something I'm practicing over and over and over again. So the story behind this video is it came to a big realization for me that, you don't want to absorb the negative emotions of others, but also it's not really okay to just blame other people for their states. And this is something that in my past, when I was more emotionally immature, I used to blame other people for their emotional states, and still sometimes I can forget and be a human and get into that. When I was reading David Hawkins' amazing book, Letting Go, putting this into context, David would advise the Christian church and as well the Buddhist monasteries. He was a psychiatrist, and his book, Letting Go, is truly phenomenal. Anyway, he explains very clearly that people, although you might not be aware of it, people are aware of how you think and feel about them, even if they don't say it. And so the way that you show up emotionally around other people is very important. Our emotions are contagious. Furthermore, a study from Harvard shows how happiness is contagious, how voting behaviors are contagious, and even obesity is contagious. So the reason why we need to be aware of boundaries is not just for us, but for the other person. So when we're not in a good state, we don't absorb their negative emotions, not in a good state. We have boundaries to refresh and replenish ourselves so we don't pass on that negative state to others. As you well know on this channel, I speak about how happiness, positive emotions leads to success, fulfillment, and health, and not the other way around, how the inner work creates the outer world. And so it is really essential that we acknowledge when we have difficult negative feelings and that we set boundaries for ourselves so we don't spiral out of control, we don't go downhill. Now, absorbing the negative emotions of others is the number one challenge I hear from my colleagues and from my clients, leaders. And it is very difficult when you're running a team or you're running a family and there's a lot of emotions there. How do you stay compassionate and kind? Well, here's a 5-part system that you're going to do to set your boundaries, okay? Now, like I said, this isn't about cutting people out. This is about showing up as your best self so you can be someone of compassion. And so your cup is full. So remember the champagne tower analogy. You are the champagne cup at the top. You fill that cup, it overflows, self-compassion and love to others. Not you're trying to pour from an empty cup. You have no boundaries. And as a result, you're getting into significant conflicts and pain and suffering, which I've experienced and I don't want you to experience. So there's 5 C's I want you to remember to set boundaries. And the reason for this, like I say, Brené Brown says, compassionate people say for what they need and they know what they don't need. And this is really, really important. So the first C is clarifying needs. I remember working with a client, an amazing DJ, and I said in one of the first sessions with them, what do you need to thrive? And they repeated that over and over again. They had realized they had never asked themselves that question. What do I need to thrive? So what do you need daily, weekly, monthly? If you've watched my other video on the ultimate self-care list, that would be a great, great place to start. But you might also want to know in certain relationships where you're feeling drained, what do you need from that person that you're not getting? And what do you need from yourself? Sit down and journal on those questions immediately in this video. It's one of the most powerful things you can do because connection is the key to fulfillment. And when you understand what you need, like whether that's with your love partner, whether that's physical intimacy at a certain amount of time, whether it's time in person, whether it's words of appreciation, whatever it is, or maybe in a business partnership, what do you need? You need response times on your WhatsApps. You need make sure people are on Slack at the right time. Getting clear on what you need and being very open in your communication is going to prevent you absorbing a lot of negative emotions from others. Number 2 is communicating when you do communicate with the word I. If you've ever been in conflict, one of the worst words you can use is you. You did this. You got this wrong. You were unkind. You were hurtful. And we've all done it when times get hard. But instead, if you can communicate with I to help with your boundaries, I feel about I need. I feel stressed about the amount of work I've got. I need some space right now. You might say something like that, or I feel overwhelmed because I haven't had any time to myself. I need the whole afternoon to be by myself. And again, that's not saying anything negative about the other person, but that's going to stop you from absorbing negative emotions. If you're already in a space where you're feeling like you haven't had enough time to yourself, the last thing you want to do is to try and help others when you're not in the best space. And this is a huge problem that people get into. A lot of my clients come with that problem, that they're trying to help family members or loved ones, but the truth is they are trying to pour from an empty cup. It's that classic analogy. So make sure you don't do that, and make sure you communicate with the I feel about I need. I know sometimes it's easier said than done. Do try this one. It's something that has really helped me in significant number of business relationships, family relationships, and close relationships. So I hope it serves you too. Number 3 is consistency. So once you've set the boundary, so you've become clear of what you need, you've communicated it, now you need to be consistent with the boundary. And I'll be honest, this is one I struggle with sometimes. Sometimes I've set a boundary, like I don't want to receive this kind of communication from someone, or I need this space at this time, or maybe I say I'm going to go to bed at this time, and then I don't act consistently with that. It happens to all of us. But the key is to just keep coming back to the boundary, keep repeating the action so you can stop absorbing the emotions of others, and so you can feel, calm and happy and fulfilled and create those fulfilling relationships. If you're not consistent with your boundary, ultimately you're communicating to that person that it's okay if they cross your boundary, and you're basically training them to treat you in an unhealthy or unkind way. This is a huge issue with people that are nice or empaths, when we struggle to be consistent over and over with our boundaries. So if that is you, it's okay. Don't worry if you've fallen off the bandwagon. Show compassion to yourself and come back to consistency of the boundary time and time again. Let me know if you have any other challenges with this, but for me, it's just coming back, interrupting the pattern, writing it down that you're going to stick to this boundary, communicating clearly, and also checking in with how you feel at that moment. Number 4 is being consistent with your boundary also comes hand in hand with challenging them. And if someone crosses your boundary, to stop absorbing their negative emotions, you might challenge them kindly and just say, I'd like to remind us that I really need my space at the moment. I feel very stressed about a lot of work things, and this isn't about you. I just need my space. And so challenge them to say that we set a boundary. And even, in some cases, if it's a business relationship, business agreements work really well when you write them down. I remember I had a client once where I had to refer to our agreement about missed sessions. And I know that anytime I do have a challenging situation, I come back to the agreement, and then we ensure we have a written agreement. Of course, in romantic relationships, it might be a little different. With family relationships, it might be a little different. But just challenge them kindly. And you often don't need to always say this. You can challenge them with your attention. So you can show that, for example, when you are setting a boundary and someone's crossed it, instead of repeatedly being critical of that, which of course is very painful to any relationship, you can just move your attention away from that and move your attention towards the things that they do really beautifully and really well. Number 5, which is the last one, care for you. So this relates to the needs at the start. If, again, you are feeling like your boundaries are crossed and you're absorbing the negative emotions of others, it's essential to watch that video I've done before, get super, super clear in your self-care, raise your emotional energy, get yourself into a peak emotional state. And at this peak emotional state, as the work of Dr. David Hawkins says, that the more you raise your emotional energy, the less prone you are to getting, to absorbing the negative states. He calls it a psychic attack in his book, absorbing the negative states of others, because you're in a peak state. It's almost like a protective shield around you. When your emotions are in a state of joy and peace and bliss and abundance, you will be less affected by everyone around you. And so that's the 5th C to set a boundary. Ultimately, if you've got your self-care really dialed in, that is your ultimate boundary. If you're really good with your meditation and your breath work and your movement and your sleep, that will naturally boundary out your time because you're doing things that you absolutely love in that time. And so people are not going to cross those boundaries, because ultimately, just like with any habit, the best way to get rid of any bad habit is to override it with an amazing positive habit. So when we fill ourselves up with self-care, we naturally set a boundary without having to kind of be critical or abrasive or unkind to anybody, by just showing how much of a great time you're having with experiencing life through all your self-care. So these 5 C's are going to help you stop absorbing the emotions of others. And like we said, emotions are contagious, so it's a key one. Number 1 is clarify needs. Write down after this video what you need daily, weekly, monthly, in a relationship from someone close to you if you're struggling with them, in a business relationship, and also for yourself. Number 2, communicate with I. I feel about I need. This is a communication tool I learned from a therapist. Very, very powerful. Number 3 is consistency. Repeat the actions that, bring the boundary into place. Number 4 is challenge them kindly. Do that with your attention. Be very aware of criticism. It's a trap we all fall into. And number 5, care for you. Get super clear on your self-care. Raise your emotional energy by being really clear on your self-care. And that will protect you from negative emotions of others. It will also help you serve more in your mission, which I know that's what you're here to do on this channel. Right, I'm sending you much love. Let me know how you get on in the comments. Speak soon.